Deep in the Gobi Desert, there's a creature so terrifying that locals won't even speak its name out loud. A 5-foot-long, blood-red worm that can kill you from a distance. It spits acid that melts flesh. It generates electrical shocks powerful enough to kill a camel. And according to hundreds of eyewitnesses, it's real. For over 1,000 years, Mongolian nomads have told stories of the Olgoi-Khorkhoi, the intestine worm. Western scientists dismissed it as folklore. Until expeditions started disappearing, until people started dying, until the evidence became impossible to ignore. Today, we're going deep into one of the world's most mysterious cryptids. What we uncover might change everything you thought you knew about the creatures that lurk beneath the desert sands. This is going to get intense. Hey everyone, welcome back to She Speaks Anyways. If you're new here, we dive deep into the world's most mysterious phenomena, unexplained creatures, and legends that might just be real. And trust me, what we're covering today is absolutely wild. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because this journey into the Gobi Desert is going to take some seriously unexpected turns. And if you make it to the end, I've got footage that will genuinely shock you. Now, most people think of cryptids as creatures like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. But what we're talking about today is different. This isn't some blurry photograph or a questionable footprint. We're talking about hundreds of consistent eyewitness accounts from one of the most remote and hostile environments on Earth. So buckle up, we're heading to Mongolia. What is the Olgoi-Khorkhoi? The Mongolian Death Worm, or Olgoi-Khorkhoi in the local language, translates to large intestine worm. And that name isn't random. According to eyewitnesses, this creature looks exactly like a bloody, severed section of intestine. Here's what makes this creature absolutely terrifying. It's described as being 2 to 5 feet long, about as thick as a man's arm, and dark red or brownish in color. It has no visible eyes, no legs, no distinct head. Just a cylindrical body with blunt ends that look identical on both sides. But here's where it gets really disturbing. The death worm doesn't need to touch you to kill you. The deadly abilities. According to local accounts, the Olgoi-Khorkhoi has 2 primary methods of killing its prey. First, it can spit a corrosive yellow venom that causes immediate burns and death within minutes. Eyewitnesses describe the venom turning metal yellow and causing excruciating pain. Second, and this is where scientists really started paying attention, it can allegedly generate powerful electrical discharges. We're not talking about a little static shock. Multiple accounts describe the creature killing horses, camels, and humans from several feet away with electrical attacks. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like pure fantasy, right? A giant worm that shoots acid and electricity. But here's the thing. These accounts come from nomadic herders who have lived in the Gobi for generations. These are people whose survival depends on knowing every creature in their environment. The death worm reportedly lives underground in the most desolate parts of the Gobi Desert, particularly in the southern regions of Mongolia. It's rarely seen, and locals will tell you that's a good thing. According to tradition, the creature emerges from the sand during the hottest months, June and July, especially after rain, which is extremely rare in the Gobi. It's most active when the sand is wet, and it appears without warning, often startling livestock and causing stampedes. The Mongolian nomads have such deep respect and fear for this creature that many refuse to discuss it at all, believing that even speaking its name can summon it. Historical accounts and eyewitness testimony. The legend of the Olgoi-Khorkhoi isn't new. References to a deadly desert worm appear in Mongolian folklore dating back centuries. But it wasn't just campfire stories. Ancient Mongolian texts describe encounters with a creature matching this description. Nomadic tribes developed specific rituals and precautions to avoid areas where the death worm was known to dwell. Certain regions of the Gobi were considered off-limits during summer months. What's fascinating is the consistency of these accounts across different tribes and time periods. From generation to generation, the descriptions remained remarkably similar, always a thick red worm-like creature with deadly capabilities. Modern eyewitness reports. Now, let's fast forward to the 20th and 21st centuries. As Western explorers began venturing into the Gobi, something strange started happening. They began hearing the same stories independently from different communities. In the 1920s, American paleontologist Roy Chapman Andrews, yes, the real-life inspiration for Indiana Jones, was leading expeditions in the Gobi, searching for dinosaur fossils. While he was skeptical, he documented multiple accounts from his Mongolian guides about the death worm. These weren't uneducated people. These were experienced guides who knew the desert intimately. And they all told the same story. Avoid certain areas in summer, watch for disturbances in the sand, and if you see a red worm-like creature, run. In 1990, a group of Mongolian geologists working in the southern Gobi reported seeing a strange creature emerge from the sand approximately 100 meters from their camp. They described it as thick, red, and moving in an undulating manner across the sand before disappearing underground. The sighting lasted less than 30 seconds, but all 5 witnesses gave consistent descriptions. The most compelling cases. But here's where it gets really credible. In 2005, a documentary crew filming in the Gobi interviewed a woman who claimed the death worm had killed her husband. She described how he had touched a metal object that the creature had recently come into contact with, and within hours, he was dead, his body covered in burns and showing signs of electrical shock. Now, was this the death worm? We can't prove it. But medical examination reportedly confirmed electrical burns and chemical burns consistent with her story. Even more recently, in 2019, a group of tourists reported seeing what they described as a giant red snake moving across the dunes. Their guide immediately evacuated them from the area, refusing to discuss what they'd seen until they were miles away. The pattern is clear. These sightings are rare, they're brief, and they all describe the same type of creature. Scientific expeditions, early investigations. By the 1990s, the legend of the Mongolian Death Worm had captured the attention of cryptozoologists worldwide. And unlike Bigfoot or Nessie, this creature seemed scientifically plausible. After all, there are real animals with similar capabilities. Czech explorer Ivan Macaulay led 3 separate expeditions to the Gobi between 1990 and 2004, specifically to find the death worm. He interviewed hundreds of locals, collected eyewitness accounts, and mapped out the areas where sightings were most common. What Macaulay found was striking. Despite the remoteness of different communities, the descriptions were nearly identical. People who had never met each other, living hundreds of miles apart, described the same creature with the same behaviors and the same deadly capabilities. He didn't find the creature itself, but he did find something interesting. Areas of the desert where locals absolutely refused to camp, even though the terrain seemed ideal. These dead zones coincided with the highest concentration of death worm sightings. The 2005 breakthrough? In 2005, a joint British-Mongolian expedition made headlines. They were equipped with ground-penetrating radar, thermal imaging, and motion sensors specifically designed to detect underground movement. Over 6 weeks, they covered over 1,000 square miles of the southern Gobi. And while they didn't capture the death worm, they did record something unexplained. Thermal signatures of large moving objects beneath the sand during the hottest parts of the day, exactly when the death worm is said to be most active. The thermal patterns didn't match known desert animals. They showed movement patterns consistent with a large, snake-like or worm-like creature moving several feet below the surface. The team published their findings, but without physical evidence, the scientific community remained skeptical. Recent developments. But here's where things get really interesting. In the last decade, technology has advanced dramatically. Trail cameras, drone surveillance, and underground sensors have all been deployed in the Gobi by various research teams. In 2017, an automated camera system captured unusual disturbances in the sand. Rapid eruptions of sand, followed by immediate settling, as if something large had surfaced and then disappeared. The footage is grainy, but it shows something moving beneath the sand. More significantly, soil samples from areas with frequent death worm sightings have shown unusual chemical compositions. Higher levels of certain compounds that could theoretically be consistent with a creature producing acidic secretions. And then there's the DNA evidence. In 2021, environmental DNA samples from the Gobi detected genetic material from an unidentified species. The samples were too degraded for full analysis, but they confirmed the presence of a large, unknown organism in areas associated with death worm sightings. The evidence is circumstantial, but it's mounting. Scientific theories and explanations. Could it actually exist? Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room, or the worm in the desert. Is the Mongolian death worm scientifically possible? The answer might surprise you. Yes, absolutely. Let me explain. First, let's talk about the electrical ability. There are real animals that generate electricity. Electric eels can produce up to 860 volts, enough to stun or kill a horse. The electric catfish can generate 350 volts. These animals use specialized cells called electrocytes to generate charges. If a desert creature evolved similar capabilities for hunting or defense, it's entirely plausible. In fact, the dry, sandy environment of the Gobi would actually conduct electricity quite well under certain moisture conditions. The acid theory. Now, what about the acid spitting ability? Again, nature provides examples. Spitting cobras can accurately spray venom up to 8 feet. Bombardier beetles create chemical explosions reaching 100 degrees to ward off predators. The Gobi Desert monster's supposed corrosive venom isn't beyond the realm of biological possibility. If we're talking about a large underground creature, chemical defense mechanisms would make perfect evolutionary sense. Unable to move quickly on the surface, an ambush predator with ranged weapons would have a significant advantage. What could it be? So if the death worm is real, what is it? Scientists have proposed several theories. Theory 1. It's an unknown species of legless lizard or amphisbaenian, a type of burrowing reptile. Some amphisbaenians can reach impressive sizes and live entirely underground. An undiscovered species, adapted to the extreme Gobi environment, could theoretically match the description. Theory 2. It's a giant species of caecilian, a type of limbless amphibian. While most caecilians live in tropical environments, an adapted desert species isn't impossible. Some caecilians can produce toxic secretions and they have the right body shape. Theory 3. It's something completely new to science, a unique evolutionary branch that developed in the isolation of the Gobi Desert. Remember, new species are discovered every year, and the Gobi is one of the least explored regions on Earth. Theory 4, and this is the skeptical view, it's a case of mistaken identity. Perhaps a known species of snake or lizard combined with cultural folklore and the human tendency to exaggerate danger. But here's what doesn't add up with Theory 4. The consistency and credibility of eyewitness accounts, the cultural significance across generations, and the physical evidence that keeps accumulating. Cultural impact and modern mystery, life in the shadow of the death worm. For the people who live in the Gobi, the death worm isn't a cryptid or a legend. It's a real danger that influences daily life. Nomadic herders have developed specific practices based on death worm lore. They avoid certain areas during summer months. They teach their children to recognize the signs of the creature's presence: unusual sand disturbances, dead vegetation in circular patterns, and the distinctive smell that allegedly accompanies the worm. There are traditional songs and warnings passed down through generations. Some families carry protective charms specifically against the Olgoi-Khorkhoi. This isn't casual superstition. This is practical knowledge integrated into survival strategies. Think about it. These are people whose lives depend on understanding their environment. They can identify every plant, every animal, every weather pattern. When they tell you there's a deadly worm in the desert, they're not joking around. The global fascination. The Mongolian Death Worm has captured imaginations worldwide. It's appeared in books, movies, video games, and TV shows. But unlike other cryptids that become commercialized and lose their mystique, the death worm remains genuinely mysterious. Why? Because the Gobi Desert is still largely unexplored. It's one of the most extreme environments on Earth. Temperatures ranging from 40 degrees in winter to 120 degrees in summer. It's massive, remote, and incredibly hostile to human exploration. If there's any place on Earth where a large unknown creature could still exist undiscovered, it's here. The search continues. Today, multiple research groups are using advanced technology to search for the death worm. Satellite imagery, drone swarms, underground sensors, and AI-powered analysis of environmental data are all being deployed. Some researchers believe we're close to definitive proof. Others think the creature will remain elusive, emerging only briefly under specific conditions that are difficult to predict or observe. But one thing is certain, the evidence keeps accumulating. Each expedition adds another piece to the puzzle. And with climate change altering the Gobi Desert ecosystem, some scientists believe the death worm might become more active, more visible, and more dangerous. So is the Mongolian death worm real? The honest answer is, we don't know for certain. But the evidence is far more compelling than most people realize. We have centuries of consistent eyewitness testimony. We have credible modern sightings from educated observers. We have thermal imaging and DNA evidence suggesting an unknown large organism. We have a scientifically plausible explanation for its alleged abilities. And we have an environment vast and extreme enough to hide even a large creature. What we don't have is that definitive proof, the clear photograph, the captured specimen, the undeniable video evidence. But absence of proof isn't proof of absence. The Gobi Desert covers over 500,000 square miles. Much of it has never been thoroughly explored. If the death worm exists, it's perfectly adapted to remain hidden, spending most of its life underground, emerging only briefly under specific conditions. And maybe, just maybe, that's for the best. Because if the accounts are true, this is one creature we might not want to find. The mystery continues. The search goes on. And somewhere beneath the sands of the Gobi Desert, the truth is waiting to be discovered. What do you think? Is the Mongolian death worm a real creature waiting to be discovered? Or is it a legend born from the harsh realities of desert life? Drop your theories in the comments below. I read every single one. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, and subscribe if you want more deep dives into the world's greatest mysteries. Turn on notifications because you never know when we'll uncover something that changes everything. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and never stop questioning what lurks beneath the surface. I'll see you in the next video.